नारायणं पद्मभवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तं तोतकं वार्तिककारमन्यात् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We are seeing Manduka Upanishad. In this Manduka Upanishad, it is divided in four sections, and the actual Upanishad is only in the first section, and the first section is known as the Agama Prakarana. Agama, that which has arrived on its own accord in the deep state of meditation. It is revealed to a rishi who became an instrument to apprehend the higher truth. This portion is known as Agama. It is known as Shruti, as it is heard. And this Upanishad is a very small Upanishad, only of 12 mantras. We've seen all 12 mantras. And a great Advaita Vedantin filled with so much love and devotion has written a commentary on it known as Karika, and Gaudapadacharya ji's Karika on Manduka Upanishad is very important in the study of this Upanishad. Even though the 12 mantras are over, now we exclusively pick up only Karika. We left off at the Karika number 27 is where we have left off in our studies of Manduka Upanishad. So 26 we will just recap, and in this Pranavo hyaparam brahma pranavascha parasmrutah apurvo nantaro bahyah anapara pranavo avyayah. This Upanishad is the most famous Upanishad which takes up the study of Pranava, the Omkar, and it is said Pranava hi aparam Brahma. This Pranava, this Omkar, is the lower Brahma. The lower Brahma, when it is said, what is talked about as the very manifested world, and the manifested world is over here in this Upanishad referred to as the Jagrat Avastha, the Swapna Avastha, the Sushupti Avastha, the very experience of the jiva, where the prapancha is experienced, where the fivefold material world is experienced, and the whole thing is referred to as the lower Brahman. And this absolute pranavascha parasmrutaha, and it is the pranava, the omkar is considered to be the highest. And what is meant by the highest is the support, the substratum of all that exists. The lower Brahman exists where? The lower Brahman is projection onto the substratum, this omkar, and the higher Brahman is not available for transaction. The lower Brahman is available for transaction, and what we mean by transaction is, in duality, it is experienced with the five senses. It is processed as an objective reality, and the objective reality is transacted with. So this pranava is both the lower Brahman and the pranava is both the highest. The lower is transacted, but when we transact with the lower Brahman as the very world of matter, and in this Upanishad, this Omkar is referred to as the world of matter because it is reduced to Nama Rupa Jagat. Nam, when we say name, that name has a sound. We cannot utter a name without utilizing the modification of the sound. Glass, table, book, all these things, when we refer to as the Nam, and the Nam is of a Nami, it belongs to an object, and that object which is revealed through the name, that name is in the gamut of a, u, ma. All sounds are included in this, and in this way the material world which is referred to as the Nama Rupa Jagat, all that is in this pranava, Omkar. When anything is uttered, it is in the complete gamut of akar, ukar and makar. It includes everything. And in this way also this Upanishad very beautifully, Gaudapada Ji clarified all this. And what is this? Apurva. It is unique. It is so unique, it is so distinct that this Apurva, which is both the lower Brahman and the higher Brahman, it is Apurva, it is unique in the sense that when we say any object, the object cannot arrive without a cause. But when it is said that pranava hi parasmrutaha, it is the higher, what is the cause of the higher? It is the one causeless cause of everything. And that is apurvata of pranava. It is the uniqueness is, it is causeless cause, and that is what is referring to without any cause preceding it. That is the apurvata, anantaha, and it is antaraha, it is inside. What is referred to as the inside? What is meant over here is, it is the very innermost self of all. When we say that I comprehend, what comprehends? The body comprehends? No. But the body with the senses sees. Then who sees? It is the eye of the mind which sees through the golak of the eye of the body. Does the mind have an independent entity to recognize? No. It is revealed by buddhi. buddhi utilizes its own knowledge stored from the past, or it is making some inference through that the buddhi is making sense of what the eye of the mind sees. But what reveals the buddhi? The nature of awareness, and that awareness which illumines both what is known and what is not known. When the buddhi says, I know this, and the buddhi says, I don't know this, who reveals I know and I don't know? The knowing aspect is the Chit Swarup, and that is the innermost, is Antaraha, this Chaitanya Atma. Anaparaha is this, there is nothing greater than that, and this knowing aspect, absolute knowing aspect, it doesn't modify when all objects come in front of it. Buddhi modifies itself if it has not understood something, and if somebody reveals a way of looking at it, the buddhi says, I stand corrected, now I know. So the buddhi modified. The mind modifies in terms of giving up the lower emotions and picking up the higher emotions of love, compassion, devotion, and it rejects the anger, the hatred, and all those things. So the mind modifies. The body, of course, the Shatvikarasti, Jayate, Vardate, Vipidimate, Aparikshiyate, Vinashyati. The body, it is born, it matures and grows and diseased, and then it dies. So everything modifies. This is the only thing which doesn't modify, and that is Anaparaha and Abahyaha. And Abahyaha, it is without outside, it is without inside. Why? Because this Chaitanya Swarup, it is Sarva Vyapakaha. It is all pervading. The knowing aspect is the innermost self, but that innermost self is also there in this phone, but the phone is not knowing its presence. So then how does Brahman express in the phone? It is expressed as the very principle of existence. The phone is. So over here is the existence, over here is the existence and knowledge. So all this is explained over here. Pranava hi avyayaha. This is this Pranava. So this Karika is beautiful for meditation. When we reach the higher still silence, how do I make sense of that silence? These words over here allow us to process and dissolve the mind and the intellect matter. It is stretched to its penultimate limit of all pervasiveness through the process of meditation, which thins the inner equipment in the process of trying to dive into the all-pervading self. Karika number 27. Sarvasya pranavo hyadi.
Sarvasya pranavo hyadi.
Madhyamantastathaiva cha.
Madhyamantastataiva cha.
Evam hi pranavam jnatva.
Evam hi pranavam jnatva.
Vyashnute tadanantaram.
Vyashnute tadanantaram.
Sarvasya pranavo hrudihi. Sarvasya hrudi pranavaha. In all, sarvasya in all beings. Hrudi, the very heart. Heart meaning the very innermost self, the Hrudi Pranava. This Pranava is the very innermost self. Madhyama, over here it is said, it is Pranava hi Adi. Sarvasya Pranavo, I am reading Hrudi. Yedi hi Adi. Hrudi you can also take. I was reading another commentary, it was saying Hrudi. So Hyadi, this Pranava of all beings, that innermost self, this innermost self is Adi, is beginningless. Madhyama, it is over here in the middle. Antastha, it is the very end. It remains when all else disappears. This alone remains. Tatha evacha evam hi pranavam jnatva, knowing that this innermost self is beginningless, it is endless, and if it is beginningless and endless, necessarily it is here in the now. That when it is known, evam, in this way it is known, then vyashnute tadamantaram, this person, tad antaram, in the end, upon meditating on pranava in this way, vyashnute, one attains, one re-establishes one's identity with the higher. Not that we do not have that identity, but we have temporarily lost that identity in the march of the life of the jiva, going through so many beginningless lives. It has gained an identity apart from the self, and that is dissolved, and that is what is meant by vyashnute tadanantaram. When one meditates upon it, one re-establishes this relationship, one attains that. Continuing, pranavam hi ishvaram vidyat, sarvasya hrudi samstitam, sarvavyapinam omkaram, matva dhiro na shochati, pranavam hi ishvaram vidyat. So that pranava, when it is said that pranava is the higher Brahman, pranava is the lower Brahman, when we make a distinction of the manifested world, and when we talk about pranava as the absolute, ever unmanifest, when we talk about the manifested world, there is an order to the manifestation. It is not just some random things existing, but there is an order. So who determines the order? Who determines the sequence of the arrival of objects and the departure of objects? If the objects are in flux, in movement, everything doesn't arrive all at once, and everything doesn't disappear all at once. There is a gradual arrival of seasons, of objects, of people, of maturity, everything. So who determines the sequence? It is said Ishvara. That Shrushti, that creation, Karta, the one who presides over it, as the one who takes care of the orderly manifestation of the lower Brahman. The title given to that Brahman, of the lower Brahman, is Ishvara. So, pranavam hi Ishvaram vidyat. Understand him to be Ishvara. Sarvasya hrudi samstitam. And he alone is seated in all beings. That Ishvara is seated in all beings. The Lord is seated in all beings. Sarva vyapinam omkaram. And that same omkar, that same Ishvara, that same pranava is sarvavyapi. So now what is sarvavyapi, all pervading? That is the higher self. So first line, the lower Brahman is talked about. Now sarva vyapinam omkaram, and knowing this, matva dhiro na shochati, knowing that the lower Brahman is nothing but Ishvara, and that Ishvara is within me, and that Ishvara dictates the very life process, and that Ishvara is within me. But when it is resolved, the lower Brahman and the higher Brahman is resolved where? Knowledge, matva. Having known that, having understood that my real nature is actually unmanifest, then why am I worried about the manifested name and form which is subject to change? Because my worries are changes. I don't like body getting old. I don't like having this and this emotion. I feel trapped by my own emotions, by own narrow-mindedness, and I'm changing. And people are even worried about change that arrives in the meditation. What will happen to me in meditation? Will I disappear? So these are the real worries of the intellect. Not knowing what is going to happen in the next moment is called worries. So that becomes the preoccupation of the intellect, rather than the intellect resolving itself in the absolute. It is too busy worrying about the next moment. It is too worried about what is going to happen next year, so on and so forth. So worries and anxieties and fears, all those things can only go away. Over here it is said matva, having known. Dhiraha, only a wise person. Na shochati. These are the words directly lifted from Upanishads. Matva dhiro na shochati, matva dhiro na shochati. Katha Upanishad it comes. So over here, even though it is a composition, a shloka composition of Gaudapada Charya-ji, but he is saying that the manifested lower Brahman and the unmanifest higher Brahman, it is to be known, it is to be understood, and only in knowledge I can resolve this. Amatro nantamatrascha dvaitasyopasamah shivah Omkaro vidito yena Samunir netaro janaha. So amatraha, over here, see where there is a amatra, umatra and mamatra. They were known as matras. So when we say amatra, that means akar. But see over here, that's why study has to be done properly. Over here, what is meant by amatra is no matra. It is not the amatra. So the study over, that's why. So without any matras. So no amatra, na umatra, na mamatra. So when we say amatra, no matras, what is left? The fourth. So turiya is actually talked about. So please don't think it is a waking state, because amatra is also referred to as jagrat avastha, not that. So over here turiya, without any matras. Without any matra, turiya, the fourth. What is the fourth? The whole mantra just on the fourth. Nanta prajna, na bahish prajna, no bhayata prajna, na prajna, na prajna. Oh, ho, ho, ho. So basically the self. What is this self? Amatra, this self over here, Omkara, which is without any sound, without any manifestation. It is in its pure original self, the Turiya. That Turiya, Anantamatra, it is infinite. Amatra is Anantamatra, that which is without any matra, without any sound. Matra can also be sound, and sound is of a specific words put together creates a sound, and that sound indicates something. Phone, when I say the sound phone, you know what it means. A little gadget arises in your mind. Not that this literally go and enters in your mind, but a vritti, a thought modification of this appears in your mind. When I say a cow, we all know what a cow is. A cow appears in the very fabric of the mind. So that is the cow matra has risen. Phone matra has risen. Glass matra has risen. So when we say that it is amatra, it is without any modifications of any sound syllables. And then anantamatra. Anantamatra, all sounds of all Brahmand, of all creation, all languages, all put together, that is also Anantamatra. Because where do all the matras exist? In silence. Silence accommodates all noise. It is the support. That's why every week my meditation is based upon this Upanishad. Reach silence, silence, silence. That still silence accommodates all noise. So that is called Anantamatrascha. Right now, this is filled with all sound modification. When that disappears, what happens? Advaita, Dvaitasya upashamaha. The duality's disappearance, upashama, Advaita, non-dual. What is that? Shivaha, absolute bliss. Shiva over here is auspiciousness, not literally the name and form of Shivji. What is indicated by Shivji is pure blissful presence. So Dvaitasya upashamaha Shivaha Omkara vidito yena. Yena, that person by whom viditaha is known. What is known? Omkar. How is Omkar known? In the fourth. What is in the fourth? Dvaitasya upashama. It is absolute cessation of duality. What is duality? Amatra, anantamatra. Because when we say amatra, no sound. But who knows there is no sound? To say that there is no sound, you have objectified sound. So duality is still there. And who says Anantamatra? I say it. So duality is there. So in Turiya, it is absolute presence. if we reach silence and we say, ah, it is so nice in silence, then you have objectified. Then it is not turiya. The idea is to reach this silence and become silence, not no silence. That is what is meant by Dvaitasya Upashama. Complete cessation of duality. What is complete cessation of duality? When all noise is eradicated and noise disappears, and when you see, there is no sound. But you are there to say that there is no sound. So, the absence of sound is objectified. So, duality is still there. Because you are there and you are objectifying silence. Absence of sound is silence. You've objectified it. I see no sound. I hear no sound. So you are the hearer and the hearing is no sound, silence. So you've objectified it. So Dvaita is there. But over here, amatra anantamatrasya dvaitasya sampurna upashama, absolute cessation of all duality, meaning in that state of meditation you become silence. That is Omkara. And becoming that silence is being silence. What is that being silence? Omkara. And that Omkara, abidance in it is vidita over here. Not literally knowing like I know this is phone, I know this is book. This is also knowing. But then how do you know Brahman? You cannot say, I tasted Amrita Brahman. Yeah, it is Amrita, but you cannot taste that Amrita like a dualistic experience of tasting. So, but yet it is known. How? I become it. Omkara vidita yena sab. That person to who this is revealed, saha munihi. That is Muni. Na itara janaha. And he is not any prakruta individual living in this world. This Muni is a unique person. Once they have taken the mind all the way up to over here, they keep on diving into the vast ocean of consciousness. And as they are diving, the picture of the infinite ocean of consciousness is getting clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And once they have reached over there and taken a dip in, they've become infinite. Again, I'm using these very limitation of the words. They become. They actually, we are all Brahman itself. But it is for the transactional level of utilizing speech to indicate what is said over here. And when they become all, but the individuality is still there. So when that mind and intellect has been there, and when it comes back, it is very different. It is the matter mind which has known the Chetana Atma. How can matter know Chetan? How can matter know awareness? Because they are of completely different by nature. Yet we have nothing else to know that except this. So this matter, in the process of knowing consciousness, understands that this has no independent existence apart from it, that matter is projected. So now they see this as a reflection, and then as the reflection, so they will reveal whatever the reflection reveals, and that's all. But knowing very well that I am infinite, that is a Muni. And only to such a person Shruti is revealed. Because how can infinity be revealed to a limited person? It won't make sense. Thus, Shruti, scriptures, Vedas, we call them revelations. It is revealed. Revealed to Munihi, na itara janaha, and not to anybody else. Because they are incapable of processing what is happening. They cannot understand it, much less go through the process of giving up all the individuality, lower nature, and rising over there. Great tapascharya of an embodied soul to become a Muni. Manana Shilavan. Through proper understanding and thinking, they have reached over there. Mananena. With this mind. What does Mananam? With the equipment, mind and intellect. How? They took a help of their teacher. And with the help of the teacher and Shastra, they reach, and this is what they have understood. Amatra, anantamatrascha, dvaitasya upashamaha, Shiva. Omkara viditaha yena. The one who has known Om, which is over here, more or less, and multiple morae, meaning Om, which is soundless and of infinite sounds, and which is ever peaceful because of negation of all duality in it, is the true sage and none other. This language also doesn't do much justice if we don't have, proper understanding, because lot of room over here to even misunderstand. Oh, I have become silent, I have become Muni. That's not how it is. So this Agama Prakarana comes to an end. This is the last Karika of Agama Prakarana. Agama meaning this revelations. And to whom is this revealed? Nanta prajna, na bahish prajna, no bhayata prajna, na prajna, na prajna. To whom it is revealed? Muni. And then what is the experience of this Nanta prajna, na bahish prajna, no bhayata prajna? It is not an experience, yet it has to be. We have to sit over here and actually understand the steps that the Muni has taken so that we can follow that steps. Otherwise, how will we go? In olden days where there was no GPS or anything like that, and when people used to go on yatras, it was through word of mouth. People used to rip pieces of their cloth and tie every so often and say, you walk this path and you will see this thing tied. or they will put some rocks on top of one another next to a tree or something, and so you walk, you will see 4 rocks piled up. You walk, you will see 3 rocks piled up. You walk, you will see, because they are revealing a path. There was no other way to reveal. There were no roads, no GPS, no nothing, and yet people used to do this Kashi Yatra from different parts of India. How do you reach that same Kashi? Shankaracharya ji has walked length and breadth of Bharatvarsh 4 times. How did he do those? So somebody has walked the path and somebody is guiding. Now this is a path we have to walk, but it is an inner path. What is the name of this national highway on the inside? Interstate which are we going to take to reach Brahman? So Shruti draws out a map of understanding. It is a road of understanding. That is called Jnanam. So understanding has to be proper. If the understanding itself is not there, it's not going to work. It is not going to work. We can sit until the end of time for meditation, Brahman will not be revealed because the understanding is wrong. That's why over here the main word is viditaha, yena viditaha, samuni. Very important. It is known, it is known, it is understood. Omkara vidita, it is known. It is a function of understanding. Now the remainder of this entire Upanishad, Karikas, not Upanishad is over. Now all the composition of Gaudapada Ji, Vaitatya Prakarana is going to start. So now, because it is knowledge, because it is to be known, all information coming up is strictly to help facilitate our understanding using logic and reason. This is how the introduction starts of the next chapter. Shankaracharya ji, he introduces Vaitatya Prakarana. Jnate dvaitam na vidyate iti uktam. So he starts with Jnate, knowing. Dvaitam na vidyate iti uktam. It is declared in various Upanishads that once one comes to know properly, there is no such thing as duality. Yet the message has gone out on WhatsApp. We will resume our classes at 6 a.m. We come over here, we meet over here, we talk in time and space, we give reality to time. I have to see, I only have 15 more minutes because you have to go back to your work and life and all those things. So Dvaitam ever is. We are subjected to duality. I cannot say, Atma alone is, there is no duality. I can sit over here until whenever to continue with Mandukya class, that's called madness. Even though we are rejecting duality, we are giving importance to duality, to even have this class. Otherwise, we cannot even have this class properly. So now it is pure logic which is coming. But we should not become hard over here with logic. If we become hard over here, yesterday's teacher satsang, I talked about it, the importance of bhakti. Because we have to assert non-duality, but we have to live duality. How do we do that? Devotion, compassion, love are very important. Otherwise, this logic turns into a hard rock stone of mind. I will just become a patthar. So, clear understanding has to be there. The understanding has to be supplemented by love and devotion. That comes from upasana. It was said higher Brahman is Pranava, lower Brahman is Pranava, but lower one is known as Ishvara. And that Ishvara is seated in all hearts. To have love and compassion for that, Ishwar Upasana is required. Otherwise, not possible. We cannot just study Upanishad, leave it and I study Upanishad, I don't need to do anything else. It will be madness. I know many people who've gone mad studying Upanishads because they try to live exactly what is talked about, which is not possible. Very brilliant brahmachari I know, he's on his deathbed because foolishness is what he tried to do. Tapovanji Maharaj did it. I will also go to Uttarkashi and do the same. Tapovanji Maharaj was Muni from birth. We cannot do what he did. We can draw inspiration from great Munis. So, many people who studied Mandukya Upanishad have not understood it in spirit. And that is why I repeat this, it is so important, because now comes hard logic. With logic, he proves the unreal nature of waking state. It's unreal, I don't need to do. So who's going to raise your child then? Unreal child, let him do. We cannot behave like that, you know. You will have to raise that child. You will have to behave properly at work. You cannot say Advaita Sarva Bhavanam, Vaitatya Sarva Bhavanam. Your paycheck will also be Vaitatya Sarva Bhavanam, you know. People go mad studying this. I am not joking. This has to be understood properly. And Shankaracharya ji says, Gnyate Dvaitam na vidyate iti uktam. Ekameva advitiyam. One truth alone is. Yes, these are all declarations of Shruti. Iti Chandogya Shrutehe. Shankaracharya ji, it is mentioned in Chandogya Upanishad. Ityadi Shrutibhyaha. All this has been said. Agama matram tat. This alone is declared in Agama Shastra. Tatra upapatti उपपत्त्यापि द्वैतस्य वैतथ्यं शक्यते अवधारयितुम् इति द्वितीयं प्रकारम् आरभ्यते. Now I am starting now commentary on second chapter. Shankaracharya ji says, with logic and reason, how this world is unreal, how absolute alone is. But that is only knowledge, and because it is in knowledge, proper knowledge arrives from proper logic and reason. If you don't give this buddhi proper logic and reason, it is not going to buy it. So proper logic and reason has to be given to this buddhi. And that is this Vaitatya Prakarana. What is this Vaitatya? This Vitathasya Bhava iti Vaitatya. So, Vitatha meaning mithya, illusion. Tasya bhava, the illusory appearance is called Vaitatya. And all that appears around us is illusion. So how is the world illusion? That is going to be proved. First, where is the world? The world is in two places: waking state and in the dream state. Because in the waking state, there is a waking world, and in the dream state, there is a dream world. So, these two avasthas will be taken. Jagrat avastha and Swapna avastha, the waking world, the dream world, are taken to prove that the world aspect for the waker and the dreamer is illusion. This is called Vaitatya Prakarana. Vitathasya Bhava Vaitatya. Born out of illusion is Vaitatya. So, we start the first Karika. If you read the introduction that Swami Chinmayananji has given, basically is what I had said from the introduction that Shankaracharya ji gives. First Karika. Vaitatyam sarva bhavanam
Vaitatyam sarva bhavanam
Swapna ahurmanishinaha
Swapna ahurmanishinaha
Antasthanatu bhavanam
Antasthanatu bhavanam
Samvrutatvena hetuna.
Samvrtatvena hetuna.
So this is very important. Over here, Gaudapada Acharya ji comes and declares and says, Vaitatya sarva bhavanam. That sarva bhavanam, of all things that exist, bhavanam, all the material world, the manifested world, all bhavas, all objects, all things which exist, Vaitatyam, it is all illusory. But then, who says? Over here, Gaudapada Acharya ji has written. So now, Gaudapada Acharya ji, if I were to say that he has written Then, so from what standpoint does he say? If somebody comes over here, a physicist in one of the university declares that there is no such thing as God, or a physicist in one of the universities declares, oh, we have discovered a new planet. Naturally, people are going to ask, what is the proof? Isn't it? On what grounds do you say that you have discovered a planet? On what grounds do you say that there is no God, God doesn't exist? When Stephen Hawking opens his mouth, people pay attention to him, but then they listen to what he has to say. Why does he make that statement? Does it make sense? And there are half of the community in physics, they buy. Still, a lot of physicists, no, we don't believe in that theory. So when we see this world, experience this world, go through the pangs born out of this world, and if somebody comes and says that the world is not, it is illusion, we are like, what's wrong with you? So when somebody says it is illusion, very beautifully Gaudacharya ji says, Swapna ahuhu manishinaha. He says, I don't say that the world is unreal. It is the experience of manishinaha. This is the proof that he gives. Because if he had not said this, he said, I say it, then it was only one person saying it. If Stephen Hawking alone says it, and then we have half of the physics community which says, no, not real. But when he says it, and if every university's physics department in the whole world supports him and verifies his finding, then they are like, yes, he's right. That is the proof. Not one person in some Cambridge, but in every university, every physicist says, yes, he is correct. Now when words come out which are supported by so many different people, those words have strength because it is verified. And thus Gaudapadacharya ji uses the word ahuhu manishinaha. This is the experience of munis. These are the words of Muni, not mine. Yes, the very fact that he says it, it is implied that he is also a Muni, he's verified it. See, these things we have to pick up, because yukti is used over here, logic. And in order for us to accept logic and reason, we have to accept that person. If I don't accept that person, difficult to digest words. Even kids, high school kids, they say, Swamiji, my teacher likes me. And when the teacher likes me, I do well in that class because I accept what the teacher is saying. But if that teacher just doesn't like me and I hate that subject, a teacher itself is rejected. then the words of the teacher don't mean much. They'll be drawing some stick figures in the physics class because they put an X on the physics teacher. Now the whole physics subject is out. When we study Shastra, that lineage we have to accept, that thought process we have to accept, teacher we have to accept, because the teaching is delivered by them. They are simply people who deliver the message. The message is important, but for me to adhere to that message, I have to have a healthy regard of that entire process which is delivering the message. On this will be built the whole thing. That's why I said Brahman is to be known. If we develop love for Gaudapada Acharya ji, he is the grand guru of Shankaracharya ji. His disciple is Govinda Bhagavad Padacharya. His disciple is Adi Shankaracharya ji. That's what we are chanting, Narayanam, Padmabhuvam, Vashishtam, Shaktim, Chatatputra, Parasharam, Vyasam, Shukam, Gauda Padacharya. He learned from, his guru is Shukadev ji. So, when such a person declares he's a Muni, has experienced it, but then nobody questions his experience because he says, not my experience. It is Ahuhu Manishinaha. Plural. If we use Sanskrit understanding, Manishinaha. Great people have declared. Antasthanat bhavanam samvrutatvena hetuna. Then the whole thing becomes easy. I will use Shankaracharya ji's commentary. We will continue tomorrow on this. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.